all those information, permissions and account, you have to configure a policy here. So I've just configured the default request policy here. There is no approval at this moment, but approvals can be added. Okay, so I have given it in a very simple way that any direct reports you can, any manager can raise a request for what? Any of his direct resources. Okay, now this is where he is going to ask for an access for his direct reportee. Okay, so that's the important part here. So this is what we are going to do it here in this number one. Okay, now there are options also in an organization where there are certain birthright roles. See, let's say if you join an organization, okay, obviously certain access has to come to you as soon as you join the organization. Okay, so that also we are handling through IG, that is identity governance. Okay, now how? It's a very simple thing here. I have a business role. I have created a business role which is birthright role assigned by IG. Okay, so basically what happens is that any user, now the condition here which I have set it for this is very simple here. What I have said here is that who's going to get this role. I have a very small condition here saying that when employee status equal to active. Okay, so as soon as the employee status becomes active, okay, the user is what given this birthright role. Now guys, here what you have to look into is that this is again a configurable option. So you can put your own conditions here. You can, click and edit here. I've given a membership expression. It's a very simple option here I've given. Again, I can include certain users. I can exclude certain users. I can put certain authorization here. Okay. I can put owners and administrations here. Who's the owner? Who's owning this role? Approval policy, who can set. So all those things can be done here. Okay. So, and again, I can also look into what is going to be the impact. This is going to be my impact here. If I delete this, there are 15 business role members who would be impacted. There are 15, permission authorization are 15. So I can actually go and decide on a lot of stuff here. Okay. So this is again an option for us. So my membership option is very simple, that, effective all the time. And then what? Then I say simply that the status, employee status is equal to active. Now, which is this? Let me come back to my iManager to show you. See, if I show you here, Bob Brenston, okay, and if I come back here and go to others, and if I show you his employee status here, this would be active here. Now, guys, this is something which you have to remember, because based on this condition, I'm also going to remove this role. Okay. Now, what does this role do? See, this role actually is doing what? It is actually assigning, let me show it to you from here. At the back end on eDirect, on your IDM, what it is doing is, it's actually allocating a resource or a permission which is called account for domain XF demo. So what happens is, as soon as you get this business role, you will have what? This account would be created for you immediately. Okay. Now this is an automatic procedure. Now the only condition is that your attribute here, which is in your eDirectory, which is employee status, has to be active. And that actually comes from where? It comes from Orange HRM. So the data is flowing here, but we are managing all the conditions here. Okay. Now, similarly, if I make it as inactive or terminated, this status, this particular option will be removed. So authorization is for what? This is the permission. Now, this is a mandatory role, and this has to be given to everyone. It is auto grant and auto revoke. Okay. Now you can put the permissions as for the, see, you are not trusting on this thing. You're only trusting on what certain conditions which you define here. Okay. So this is where you define your policy for your business role. Any questions? Anyone has anything? if they want to ask anything. Anything in the chat? Guys, if you have any questions, you can please type it in the chat. I am viewing the chat here. And Bob is also viewing. So we'll try to answer all your queries, within this.
Nothing so far.
Okay. So this is the way we are going to do it out. Now, first, this is the first part. Now, the user, Bob, has been created. Okay. He is an active user. Now, the only thing I have to do is, see here, to show you it is a demo option. But obviously, yes, the data reconciliation has to be done. See, in most of the cases, this data reconciliation or of this data from the data sources, we normally schedule it. Again, you can schedule this. So I can put a schedule that the reconciliation and all those things should be done after 1 hour, 2 hour, or whatever your time limits are. But at this moment, because I have to show you, so I'll be doing it manually. So I'll come to identities and I'll say start collecting the data. Okay. So I'll say collect now. So now what it is doing is it is picking up the data from my IDM. It is collecting the data from IDM, bringing it here, and then we will do the next part of it is we'll publish it. Okay. Now, before I publish, I will show you something. Let first this collection finish. Then I'll show you the catalog here. So if I show you the catalog of my identities, see, I do not have Bob at this moment because I have not collected the data. Okay. So this is not there at this moment. Okay. So now let me go back to my data source. Let me go to identities and let me publish this. Means it's temporarily in the system, but it is not in the database fully of IG. Okay. So let me publish it. As soon as this publication is done, let's go back to the catalog here. Let's go back to our identities. You'll see Bob Brenston created. Okay. Now, let me click on this. See, if you look into it, the birth role assignment by IG has been done. Now, what has happened is because the condition was that if a user, when the data is being collected from the identity data is being collected through the collector, it actually evaluates that if your role is active, your employee status is active, this birthright role has to be assigned. Okay. Now let me show you another thing. Then I'll show you the fulfillment process also. But if I go back here in this, and if I go to this option here, this my resource. So it's a backend is the E directory here. Okay. Let me refresh this out. So you will see Bob Brenston has been assigned what? Auto grant permission. So this permission has been given. Now, if I go to AD here and I go to active user and I'll refresh this out and say, see, Bob has been created here. So see here, the whole concept here is that we are controlling this from IG. See, it's the person who is, these are automatic. Now I'll come to the next part where the manager will give rights to Bob. Okay. Now, but if I go here, now just to show you, it has been assigned, user has been created, this account, this role has been given. So if I go back again to my identity governance here, for this identity, this business role is there. So if I click on this, so this business role has been given. Okay. Now, coming to important point, if the business role has been given, why I'm not seeing my account here? Okay. So, and my resource, that is my AD. So for that, again, what I'll do is, see, if I go to the fulfillment and show you the status here, see, the permission to the user has been added, through Active Directory driver only. Now the verification is pending. Means my IG at the back end actually got everything done through my AD driver using the role and resource model of my IDM, and it was able to do it. But again, the verification for IG has to be done, that whether this was successfully done or not. Now to do that, I will have to go to my applications and I'll simply say collect. Now I have two options here. Either I want to publish everything or I want to publish changes. So let me first say publish all. And if you want, you can just say publish changes. So you don't have to do a lot of changes, everything won't be published again. So only changes would be published. So again, the data collection is in process. It is getting collected and it is collecting from these two applications. So it is actually at the back end looking into the roles, resources, AD and everything. And then it will pick up the information and bring it here, which I will publish it. As soon as I publish it, Bob, I can see various options related to Bob, like what is his account in AD, what permissions he has in AD and all those stuff. Guys, it takes a little bit time because it is picking up everything, so you'll have to bear with me.
One other point while we're, this is normally where we play the Jeopardy theme music, but another point to add to what is going on right now is Sanjeev is doing all of this collection of the data, because the data is actually being stored in a backend database. And then when you go through the publish process, that's where it actually commits that data into, what we call the catalog. Now, in a production environment, things that we would probably want to take advantage of are scheduled processes where this happens automatically in the back end, so that individuals aren't required to sit here and manually do this before all of these changes are being reflected, just to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, so this is the point, guys, which Bob explained. So you can click on schedule, you can click on plus, then you can define a schedule, see when this collection has to occur. Okay, so all your collection schedules can be defined in this way. Okay, now again, 100% time in a production environment, this would be done. This has to be used. Okay, so from a demo perspective, yes, we show it here. And now I've done the collection. So I did not select publish changes. So this won't allow me here. So what it says is, if I click on this also, it says cannot publish. The latest collection was created to do a full publication, cannot be used for publishing changes. Now, again, if you want only the changes, if you know that there are going to be a very few changes which have to be published, you can always select as publish changes. Okay. So now let me click on publish all. Now, this is, as Bob said, it is now updating the catalog. So now it's the catalog which is getting updated, and catalog being updated with all my permissions which have been assigned to me by this, business rule I got. Okay. Or let's say if any other application has given it at the back end, that will also come. So to see the change again, let me go back to fulfillment status. See, that option is gone because it has verified it, means whatever it did, it has actually got impacted and it has got created. So if I go to catalog again here, and if I click on identities here, so let me go to Bob Brinston here. So you'll see here. So now Bob has one permission. Okay. He has two accounts. Okay. Now those two accounts are what? Those two accounts are, this is his GUID in AD. Okay. And this is his account for MySQL. Okay, so this is where his MySQL information comes, where orange HRM. Okay. And he has one business role here. And if you now look into it, to look into more, his employee status is active. So this whole information is available to us. Okay. And as I showed you, if I go back here, if I go back to iManager, I go to Bob, and if I go to other, if I go to Identity Manager here, you will see Active Directory. This has been processed. So everything is in sync now. To an extent, if I go back to AD here, okay, Bob Brinston has got created here. Any doubts, any questions on this?
No questions that haven't been answered.
Yeah. Okay. Now coming to the next part. See, this is one of important use case. See, now if you go into if you go into the use zero trust options, see, zero trust, the first thing what it says is, see, user account and entitlements are granted through governance driven provisioning. Okay. So basically the whole definition says in the zero trust use cases, creation of a user account, assignments of corresponding entitlements are based on the results of governance process. So if you look into it, here I have not used any IDM. It's all coming from my governance. So guys, you can define your own business roles. You can define, it's an easy process. Let me just give you a heads up on this. It's a very simple way. What you have to do is you have to just simply go down and say business roles. Okay, you just add it. Okay, you can actually define it out, give the name, description, any grace period, any risk associated with it. Then again, the only thing you have to do is how are you going to add your membership expressions? Means how are you going to select? So this is going to be your expression here. It's a simple expression where you can select these attributes. See, again, these are the attributes which are part of the user in the catalog, identity in the catalog. You put a condition here. There are filters. Now, if you want to add any specific users, or you want to exclude certain users, here you can define it. Then obviously, yes, if you are doing an authorization, what permissions you want, you can then select the permissions here. See, again, add permissions held by members, add permissions from catalog. So you have these options of creating it. If any technical roles are there, I'll come to that in a couple of moments. I'll come to the technical roles, anything authorized by any application. And finally, the owner and this thing. And once you're done with it, you click on this and you save it, and your business role is ready. Now, again, it depends on you. How do you want to use this business role and where you want to use it? Okay. So this is purely on this. As I've told you, we have created a business role where we are saying it's an auto generate option. A user would get, as soon as his his option changes, this would be revoked or this would be granted. Okay. So just to show you, again, how, this is done. So let me first come to the next part of it is, now let's say Bob has become a part of this. Now Bob requires, the second use case is that, he requires a privileged access, for which he requires an access to what? A particular group. Okay. Now again, he doesn't have a permission to ask on his own. Okay. So the only thing it is there, the way I've defined it, that if he requires an access, it has to be done through what? Through his manager. So it's a simple process here. So Tim Watson is his manager. So I click on access request. Now, this is the current access, which is with Tim Watson. Now, when I click on this and I select Bob Brinston, he only has this permission at this moment. He doesn't have any technical role. He doesn't have any other permissions. So first, let me first explain you basically a technical role. So what I've done is, see, a technical role is a role which is a combination of certain permissions and other options. So you can either mine that role or you can assign that role. So what I have done is to show you this is, in my roles, there is a technical role which I have created. So it's again an easy way of creating a technical role. What you have to do is you have to click on plus here, and then you have to give the name, description, who is the owner, you can set the risk level, and then what you can define is what all permissions are required to give you this role. So basically what happens is that there are two things. Number one, you would be, when you mine it, see, let's say if you have two permissions and those two permissions collectively make what? They make a role. When you mine it, you will get that role automatically in IGA. Or if you ask for the role and if you do not have a permission, you would be given that permission. So same is the use case which I am following here. Okay. So what I have done is, let me show it to you here. I have created this role which is called sales tech role. Okay. Which is, again, there is one permission here, that is when you will get this role if you have a sales group permission. So let me just come back to here. See, I have a group here which is called sales group. Okay. Now I want Bob to become a member of this role. Okay, this group. Now, again, in my IDM, what I have done is, just to show you an option here, I have created this resource which is called CN Sales Group OU Sales DC. So this is the name I have given to it. So this is a resource which I have created. Okay. So easiest thing is, now this would be assigned, and the application here is my Active Directory. Okay. So just let me close this up now. Let me come back to access request. I'll select on browse. So I want to browse on it. So for Bob, see, again, see, the best part is if I select Tim Watson, this becomes blank. So Tim Watson cannot ask for any application access or a technical role for himself. The self is not there. Okay. Now, again, why I'm trying to explain you this is because this is something which you have to remember. Now, I have an option here. It is not that I can't do it. So the only thing is, you have to remember that whenever you want access request to be active, there has to be a policy which has to be associated with access request. Okay. So this is called access request policy. I don't have any approval process. Okay. I've not defined anything else. I've just picked it up as default. Now here, as I showed you was that here I've given a condition that this, who is the requester here? So all users, but what? May request for what? All users can request for their direct report. So I have these options. Either it can be for self, direct reports, downline reports, member of a particular business role, if you are member of a particular group, users matching query, or what you can do is that anyone can give a role to anyone. It means a request can be, access request can be raised for anyone. Okay. Again, similarly, you have option allowed users, allowed groups. So all those options can be done here. Okay. So my option here is very clear. So he can only, Tim Watson or a manager can only request for what? For his subordinates, direct reports. So let me select it for Bob Brenston at this moment. Okay. Now I don't want to select any application. Again, you can restrict this also, guys. This can be done in a very simple way. The only thing you'll have to do is, when you are defining your policies here, see, it is here in edit. If I show you, it's here. Requestable. What are my requestable resources? So I have selected all three, means it is permissions, applications, and roles. If I only wanted roles, sorry, I could have selected roles only and left these blank, sorry, unchecked. but I've checked them all. That is why when I go for access request here, I am able to see for what all these stuff. So if I do a browse again, I can select here. So I don't want this. I want to give him a technical role. Okay. Now, this is the risk which I've associated with this reason. I'll simply say requires, add to the request. So it's in my cart here. Let me go to my cart. Okay. Now, before I go into the cart, let me show you something at this moment. Bob here, if I go to this resource, and if I say resource assignment here, I show you the assignment here. See, at this moment, I do not have any assignment here. Means, and then there are 4 request status for Gary and Sanjeev. See, for which one the grant, the other is revoke. Again, grant and revoke. Okay. So Bob doesn't have it. And similarly, if I go to AD here, Bob is not a member of this group. Okay. Now let's go back to our identity governance here. Reason for making request requires, okay, and I submit it. Now, once this is done, okay, now let me come back to, my identity governance and let me show you something. So if I go to fulfillment and I check the status, see the add permission to user through Active Directory sent to fulfillment via identity manager pending verification. So if I go back now here and let me show you this, let me refresh this. So there is one resource assignment. Now, guys, there is a point I'd like to add. I did not have that much time for this presentation, so I could not do it. See, if you want, now there are 2 things which you have to remember. Number 1, there is an option here that I can generate a workflow here in itself, where, when Bob, Tim will raise a request for Bob, it will go to particular person who will approve it as his manager. Once he has approved it, let's say as a first approver, you can go to second and all those stuff. Okay. Also, there is an option. Now there is a catch here. See, based on the organizations, identity governance is pushing this. Okay. So if all approvals have been done in identity governance, you don't require any approval in identity manager. But if you already have a pre-installed, a lot of customers install IGA as a second step. So it's for them. If you're installing it as a second step, you have to remember you can activate as a normal resource here. There can be a workflow here for approval. Okay. So all those things are available to you. See, now there's another point where people ask us that, during the trainings that you are saying the permission has been added to the user. Yes. The permission as per IGA, the process has been initiated. Now, remember, there could be an option where in IDM to get this resource, there is a workflow which is associated. So that is why this pending verification is there. So it says send for fulfillment means it has seen it, it has assigned it internally to the user here. Okay, but it is not actually being assigned here. So let me just show it to you here. Let me show you the catalog here first. See, you will see here. See, you will see that he's got a role. Okay. But his permission is not here, because this permission would be only populated once it collects the data back from what? Back from IDM. That is Active Directory driver here. Okay. So that's the whole process we have to look into. Okay. So this is done now. And if I go to my fulfillment and then let me show it to you. If I go back here, let me go back to the sales group here. Let me refresh my Active Directory, this whole Active Directory option. If I go to sales group, see, Bob has already become a member. So the only part now left is the same has to be updated back to my IG. Okay. So let's go back to our data source. Now I'm not going to use the identity because now I have to synchronize my permissions. Okay, again, I'll collect it. I'll just show it to you. Let's say publish changes here now. So I will only bring the changes. Means I'll only publish the changes. The things which are not being changed, I'm not going to publish it. See, this way, this was not available in the older versions. Why? It actually was, you were publishing everything. So in order to reduce that publishing time, this option is available now. Okay. This is done. I will say publish changes. See, now this is not active. See here, cannot publish all because it is based on only on changes. This is done. Let's go back to our catalog here. Let's go to our, okay, it's first thing we can check from fulfillment also here. Let me check the status. So that has gone. Now let's go back to our catalog, identities. See, now Bob Princeton has 2 permissions. He has an account in Active Directory domain. He has a sales group option here. Okay. Now this is, you can see the details here. It has been assigned type directed. This is the time that this was assigned. It's a resource. Okay. Now, once you are done with this, okay. Now let me go back again and let's do the option of here. So any questions here? Anything you want to ask? I don't think anybody has a question.
I'm actually taking care of them for you, Sanjeev.
No, there is something in the question, I think, Bob.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll take this time real quick. Ragnar had posted in there, is there a way to migrate roles from IDM to IG? How about workflows? Can they be migrated, assuming they use Form Builder? So the answer to that is migration, no, not at this point. Keep in mind, and I've kind of responded this to a number of the questions in here. I just want to reiterate that what Sanjeev is demonstrating here and what the new courseware is being based off of that's about to be released is IG 372, which initially was primarily the SaaS version. The on-prem version is supposed to be technically 373. And there are some pretty significant improvements and addition of feature sets. So when we're talking about things such as workflows, traditionally we have facilitated those workflows through Identity Manager, all right? With the 372 version of the IG product, there is a brand spanking new workflow capability built into the product. As a matter of fact, without getting you, I don't know if you want to, maybe I'll have you wait till you finish your demo. But if you look at the top right of Sanjeev's screen, there's like a little house over there. This is your ability to access the web-based workflow dashboard. So you will have the capability of actually creating forms and workflows directly within the identity governance product. So one of the previous questions that I think, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, but Lorenz had asked was, well, with all this capability with IG that we're seeing, is there a need for IDM or the user application? And to be clear, is there a need? No. I mean, a lot of the capability that we have traditionally seen with IDM, with workflows and forms and all of that stuff, that is now a function with this version of IG. However, we never want to get to that point where we just decide to wholeheartedly rip and replace, throw the baby out with the bathwater type of thing. So if you do have these resources, these investments already within IDM, you could still leverage them. As a matter of fact, when we start talking about going through request policies and approval policies, if you have an existing workflow in IDM, you could basically pass that provisioning request directly to IDM so that they're facilitated in that manner. However, now you have the capability, if you have a customer, or you are a customer for that matter, that doesn't have IDM in your environment, you can actually start fulfilling all of these capabilities directly with the IG product itself. Okay, so let's see, is the workflow in IG highly configured as it is in the user application? Diego, I'm gonna hold that question, okay, because I would like Sanjeev just to finish what he's currently got in his presentation, but I promise you, we'll come back and I'll have Sanjeev kind of drive while I explain it, and you're going to see that the workflow capabilities within IG is pretty sweet. So anyway, go ahead, Sanjeev. Why don't you go ahead and continue?
So there's one part I'll just add hurriedly. Ragnar, you have asked, is there a way to migrate, how about the workflows? See, you cannot migrate the workflows, but the forms can be. So that's the point you have to remember. So if you're using, because for both IG as well as IDM, we are using a same form builder, but there is a big change in certain things. So you cannot directly pick up a workflow and from IDM and bring it in IG. But yes, if you've already designed a form with certain screens, layout and other stuff, that can be brought. Okay. But as Bob said, we'll discuss about this a little bit later. So let me just finish this part of the presentation. Okay. Now, guys, I have given this to Bob. So assuming jumping, again, 1 year ahead in the time, and let's say Bob now doesn't require this whole option here. Okay. He doesn't require he should not have the sales group permission here. So the easiest is here again, not going back into the whole stuff there. So the only thing I have already configured a review. So review or a certification. Okay, just let me just show it to you. So this is my certification here. Okay, this is where I have, let me show you the definition of my review. So I have selected a review for all users for a selected role, which is sales tech role. Then again, roles assigned, unchecked for detected roles, means I am saying I want to do a review only on the roles which have been assigned, not detected through a mining, role mining. Now, guys, you would be thinking, what Sanjeev is talking about. So it's a very simple option here. If I go to our roles here, there is a second tab here, which is called mining, where I can actually define a role option here. I can generate a suggestion. Based on that suggestion, it will mine and generate this role. Means I can put a condition if he has this, all those options, and then this role is assigned. So here also the option is available in reviews. In my definition, I've said that I want to do a review. Now review for what? This role, and this role what? This role which have been assigned. Okay, not detected. Now let me show you my impact here. See, the impact here is one user, one role, one review target. Okay. Now again, further review options, I've set it up, allow reviewers to reassign the task, all those things, some small things. Okay, who are the reviewers? So this has to be reviewed by my supervisor. Okay, or it could be a self, or could be by a selected user, or could be a coverage map or business role. So whatever it is. And then how do you monitor task due date, escalation, schedule when it should run? All those options are available to you. So I have created this review here. Okay, now let me run this. Okay, I will run this and I'll say go start and go live. Now as soon as I do this, let me go back to the reviews here. See, you will see that I will have a review coming to me again, because see here. So this is a review which has come. Let me just change the screen sometime. This is a little bit tricky option here. So I have a review coming to me. So as a manager, Tim has a review coming to him. Okay, so number of days is for 14 days. Okay, it is reviewed after, maximum days is there. One review has not been done. So let me click on this. Okay, one review item. So sales tech, the user is Bob Brenston. Okay, I can override it or I can keep or remove. So I'll say keep, I'll say remove. So I am saying that this has to be removed. Again, my condition says a comment. Bob does not require it. Now, as a owner, I am getting, again, Tim is getting as an owner because he's the owner of this review. I'm approving it. This is done. Now, as soon as this is done, if I go back again to my fulfillment here and check the status, so this is again. So this has come, file has been marked for either removal and this thing. Do you want to remove the permission assignment for this? I'll say now slowly you'll see, this will go. Once I do my data collection here, and if I go and check here, see if I go and check my catalog here, why did not it remove it? Just a moment, yeah, because the permission is there, so it is not. Let me check the status here. See again here, pending verification. So this is again, I will go here, data sources, application. Again, let me come back here. Let me show it to you. I think this would have got removed here by now. I don't know why this is not working. Just give me 1 second, guys. Should have got removed.
Just out of curiosity, Sanjeev, did you collect and publish just to do the verification?
Yeah, I'll just do that. But yeah, so I have to be, role assignment has been removed. Okay. So this has been done. Let me just do this option here.
Which, by the way, I forgot who it was, but somebody asked a question earlier about the difference between publish and publish all, or I'm sorry, publish all and publish changes. Just for the record, this is a new capability in 3.7.2. As you might imagine, publish all is saying, okay, when I've collected all of my data as part of the collection process, do I want to overwrite all of the data that's currently in there with data that's been collected? Or do I want to do just the changed data relative to, published changes? So what it does is it helps to streamline that process. make it more efficient to ensure that the catalog is populated with only the most current of data. So again, this is a new feature in 3.7.2 that you're actually seeing that wasn't available prior to this version of the product.
Just publishing it.
And obviously in your environment, depending upon the speed in which changes occur, you and or your customers would determine what is the best frequency of having this scheduled to be an automatic process. So kind of keep that in mind as well.
Okay. I think I have a problem here, Bob. I don't know why this is not working, but let me again just start the review, start and go live.
Yes, what Sanjeev is trying to overcome here is the changes have been instituted. We just need to make sure that identity governance with the catalog can confirm that those changes have been implemented.
See here, it actually is not showing it, but it says unable to start the review because there is no review item found. So, you know, the option here is that this has been, according to this database, it has been removed, but due to some reason, I still don't understand why it is showing it. It should have actually removed this for this particular user from here, as well as, you know, from my system there also. So these two should have got removed. Okay. That's simply strange option. Status is, see, everything is fine, but the only display is that maybe let me log out and log in again.
Yeah, a couple points that folks are making in the chat window, Sanjeev, is, let me just pick one of them, Mikhail. The fulfillment was manual, so maybe the fulfillment configuration is set to manual as well.
Just possibly. Let me check. I don't think, but let me just again check it out. And configuration.
While Sanjeev is poking around, another question came in, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to even attempt. I apologize. Well, maybe I will. Thanker. Okay. How would this separation of duties work in IG? There is separation of duties policies that you can configure within identity governance as well. Not part of what Sanjeev is demoing here, but they are in there.
This is automated. See, these all are automated. These two are manual. These two are automated. That's strange. That's very strange because this is, I know I tested it for two people and then I was very sure this is one. This.
Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and just move on, and we won't hold everybody up here.
Yeah. So guys, as soon as this is done, you know, review is finished, you will see this fulfillment done because it has actually done it on its own. So if I show you, this has been done 100%. So there was one review item which was removed. Okay, this is like, this was for Gary. Let me go and select it for the other guys. And I think this is the, see, the only thing is, it says it is not getting fulfilled. You know, role assignment was removed, but this fulfillment is not happening due to some reason. I'll have to check this, but this happens automatically. Just to show you again, the same thing I did for the other two guys also for my account and the other option. So if you look into it, you check the status, when fulfill was verified. Okay. So all those options are available to you. Now coming to the last part of my presentation here is, see, which is the leaver part. So let's say if Bob decides to leave the organization. So let's move again in the same process now. So orange HRM, employee list. Let me open up. Yeah, here it is. Now, the only thing I have to do here is I have to change his employee status to what? Let's say terminated or inactive. Let's make it as inactive here. Let me save it. So this is done. Now let me go back to my iManager here and let's check what is the status here. It may take a couple of minutes, but I think most of the time this is very fast. Let me just refresh this. See here, this has become inactive. Now, let me go back to my identity governance here. Okay. If I go to the catalog here and if I check my identity here for Bob, see, this is still what? He is active. Okay. So this is active for him. Okay. Now, the important part here is I have to now go and just to remove this, the only thing I have to do is I'll have to go to the data source here. Okay. Identities, collect the data.
And once again, just to reiterate, folks, that if you're in a very large enterprise environment and you have a lot of transactions occurring with your identity sources, clearly you're not going to be doing this on a manual basis. You're going to be setting those schedules up so that they can go through and harvest that data and then publish it in the catalog. And this is where that publish changes really comes into play as an extreme value added feature with this version of the product. So I just want to kind of, make sure that everybody is on the same page. While this seems cumbersome with what Sanjeev is doing by doing it on a manual basis, in a true enterprise deployment, you would have all of this stuff set up to where it was automatically being handled for you. I've heard in some cases, they basically go through a collection, in a matter of, either an hour, or if there's a large amount of transactions, then, you might want to set it up to where, every 10, 15 minutes, you go through, you harvest the new data, you publish the changes into the catalog so that it's much more automated for you.
Yeah. So guys, now I'll just publish this out. Now, again, because of the condition, the role would be removed from this user. Okay. So the fact here is the whole option depends on the IG here, whatever you define. So here, if you look into fulfillment status here, see, again, let's go to the catalog here. Let's go to identities. Let's go to Bob. See, this is inactive employee status. It'll take I think there is a problem because this would become active immediately. These would be gone. So see again, the problem is I have to manage this, but if you look into it, my business role has gone. Guys, you can see this here. My business role has gone from here. Okay. So I can only see this is an error. It should have removed this, but I will check it later. But again, if you look into it, I do not have a business role now. That has gone. And again, let's go back here. Let's check here again. Let me just change this. See, the Bob has been removed from here, and he would have also gone from AD. Let me just refresh it. See, this has become disabled. The user has become disabled because we have removed this from here. See, we are not removing the user from here, so this has been removed. Okay. And if I go and show you the option here in my Netiq IG manager, it's again the way we have configured our IDM here. See, that entitlement has gone. Okay. So this is my entitlement. If you want to see the results here, see at this moment, entitlement references. See, this has been revoked. So this account entitlement has been revoked, and the policy says just disable the user on the AD. Now, guys, this will purely depend on your, anyone's condition in the organization. Okay, this is how it works. So these are the use cases which I had to discuss with you. I had to show to you joiner, mover, and lever. Any questions, guys? Bob?
Yeah, there's actually one remaining question from Mikhail. Do you have any best practices? How often should you collect and publish given a normal sized organization? So those are items that are currently in development, Mikhail. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be heading to Provo to meet with Steve Hansen, for those of you who are familiar with him, and gathering a lot of this information that we can make available, include within our courseware, etc. Again, I can't emphasize enough that what you're seeing here is IG 372, which, it is available as a SaaS implementation. The on-prem is soon to be coming. It'll probably be designated as 373 from what I understand. So what you're seeing is some of the latest and greatest capabilities within the product. Couple things that I would like to do, because I know we're running short of time. Just to reiterate, what this, as Sanjeev had mentioned, is, these are the key points as far as zero trust. IG in and of itself is representing a paradigm shift. Traditionally, we've all looked at this capability coming from IDM, where in the past you had IT people that were responsible for managing this zero trust implementation through more from an aspect of IDM. Now what you're seeing is this is now transitioning over more to identity governance. So rather than IT people managing this whole process, now you're getting to where business owners are going to be responsible for this. And business owners what I'm referring to that is more of like a role, stakeholders, that type of thing. Again, everything that Sanjeev has shown you today is actually being provided within our training content that is soon to be released. So I know that there were a couple of people that were asking questions such as, you know, separation of duties and, you know, access and approval policies. All of that stuff is being handled within the new training content. And just really quickly, Sanjeev, using you as a driver, could you go click on the house up at the top so that we could take a look at the
No, this is
workflow?
workflow dashboard in this setup is missing, Bob. This is a
Oh, they didn't install it?
they didn't install it. But let me just give just give me 1 second, okay? Just give me 1 second. I have it for you. I kept it ready just to show it to people. And I'll just give me one, guys, you'll have to give me a second here so that I can show it to you.
Actually, let me go ahead and why don't you hand over the baton to me because I've got it on my screen over here.
Sure. Okay, where is Bob here? Bob, make him a presenter. Okay.
Here, I'm going ahead and I yanked it. Sorry. As the manager, you know, you can do certain things, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully everybody can see my screen now. So here is the workflow administration console. Again, this isn't part of, you know, necessarily a part of the presentation today, but I do think it's important enough to show you guys what is available with this version of the product. So if I come in here to catalog, I can actually go into forms. You can see that we've got some default forms that are already available to us. However, I can go ahead and I can create a new form. I can take an existing form, tweak it up to meet my needs. So let's say hypothetically my approval form here. So right now, here are the fields that are currently in play with the default form. And over to the left, you could see I've got what amounts to be a palette of options that I can choose from. So I can go ahead and incorporate another, you know, text field over here simply by dragging and dropping. I can bring that capability over and be able to identify data of interest to me that I can go ahead and include within this form. So again, text fields, numbers, passwords, checkboxes, all those types of things. I can go ahead and take advantage of those. Let's go back over here.
That's a form builder.
Yeah, here we go. I just had to go into the right tab. From a workflow perspective, for those of you that have, oh, for the love of Pete, those of you that are familiar with working with Designer, okay, in which you could go ahead and build your workflows there. I've got now a web console in which I can go through this whole process of creating a workflow. So I'm going to just call this Bob's workflow, even though I'm inactive or terminated, whatever Sanjeev did for me.
Bob, you'll have to remove the dash. It has to be underscore.
Oh yeah, that's right. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and remove it altogether. What the heck? So I'm going to go just call it Bob's WF, just because I've got a Bob's workflow already here, and I'm going to get really creative with my description in the essence of time. And so what you have here is, again, a web-based console in which I can drag and drop elements to extend the capabilities of our current policies such as access requests, approval policies, separation of duties, all of that fun stuff. All of that is baked into the product as it stands. However, there may be additional logic that I want to be able to take advantage of. Like, for instance, as we're going through these processes, maybe I want to log certain events. Maybe I want to send an email notification. Maybe I want to set an alarm, whatever the case may be. So as opposed to having to use Designer that you normally would have to do traditionally within IDM, Now you've got a web console that's very light and efficient to be able to provide this capability. So let me just quickly see if I can sum this up in about 2 minutes. So for any logical process, think of the old data flow diagrams. We used to have those nice little stencils, and then we had Visio. Well, you got to start somewhere, right? So you get your start process, and then you've got to have an end game. Where is everything going to terminate? Okay. Now you can see I've got errors in here. It basically tells me, hey, Bob, you got 3 errors. All I have to do is hover over the little X, and it will tell me, oh, well, you're missing something here, dude. First of all, you don't have any connection between these 2 elements. So what I can do is I can click on the actual element itself. Inside here, I can get my connector line and connect the 2. Okay. So that will take care of at least one of my errors. Then it sits back and says, well, wait a minute, still you have a form ID. What I have to do is I have to reference a form in which this guy is going to be taking advantage of this. So I grab my pull down and say, hey, go ahead and let's grab that request form. Okay, so you can see dynamically this interface is very intuitive and walks you through the process. Now, what I've got right here, right now, isn't a whole lot of anything because I'm starting a process and I'm ending a process with no decision points. So let me go back over into the catalog here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw all that stuff away. And let's just take a look at a quick 2-step approval process, a completed one. Okay, by default, the single approval and the 2-step approval, those are default for you. Okay, but inside here, you can see the logic flow that we've got. You start the process, the request goes to the first approval. If he approves it, great, let's log it as a successful approval activity, send it on to the second guy. And then from here, here's our workflow status approved. What do you want me to do? And then of course, we want to make sure we log that activity as well. If this is a denial, either at step 1 or step 2 of the approval process, we certainly want to log that information. We want to implement whatever this is relative to. And then, maybe we want to give a notification to the person that made the request. Okay. Now, I don't know about you all, but both Sanjeev and I as instructors, just bringing up Designer, love Designer. It's got a tremendous amount of capability. The offline modeling capability is tremendous. But let's face it, Designer can be a pig. This is a very fast and efficient means by which we can design workflows and forms. And just to kind of give you a brief glimpse as far as what's available within this version of a product. Okay. Everything that you've seen as far as the different pieces that Sanjeev has demonstrated, the Active Directory, the identity governance, the identity manager, the HR database, we are using those same components in our training. So if you come to our training and you're thinking about, oh, well, I remember Sanjeev demoing this, all of those assets are what we use within our training. Okay. So just to kind of keep that in mind as well. I would like to remind everybody of the fact that we do have that academy coming up. Registration will be closing on November 18th. The beginning of the academy will start with an orientation call on November 28th, and then the academy will begin in earnest on December 5th. Okay. Any questions on what I just provided, or anything else that any folks want to throw out there?